Hi everybody, welcome to Old Bookworm's channel on this overcast but thankfully much cooler Sunday. My friends, I despair. I want to pull every hair from my head in desperation, irritation, and I do not have the words to describe my frustration. So before we get to the promised Meghan Markle talk, let me first explain the source of my frustration. First and foremost, I 100% support Lady C's narrative regarding Prince Andrew in her last video, and I have basically already done 2 videos and more in the past about the subject, and am therefore not going to go through it all again. But unlike Lady C, I do not live in Britain, and unlike many of the other creators, I do not have affiliations with other creators either, and therefore I do not care what other creators think of me. I do not have a line of rhetoric which I use to draw views, no popular tagline. I bring you what I think and feel, and it is take it or leave it. All I try to do is to stay within the guidelines of YouTube in order to keep my channel, and then of course I try to stay as factual as possible anyway. So, after listening to the likes of the young American Kinsey Schofield and a couple of deranged or hysterical others, and reading the biggest load of trash in the media, I have decided that today is the day I stay true to myself and give it to you straight. No long stories, no tales of woe or fantasy. And I'm sorry, but today is the day on which I'm going to pull a Harry on myself and you and fully blame the media. First and foremost, and then I will get to the others. In the media, it is said that there are new revelations about Andrew and Epstein and Andrew and Epstein's girls. Well, I actually have the documents, and I want, no, actually, I dare any journalist to come show me anything in Schoberg and Giuffre's depositions which is actually new. There is nothing concerning Andrew in particular which I have not read somewhere else before, whether true or not. So let me translate what is in the documents for the ignorant, clickbaiting, dumb, lazy, mainstream media and press. Jane Doe number 3, whom Andrew allegedly had carnal relations with, is indeed Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Roberts as she was known then. True or not, she has already told the entire world media the full, explicit details, whether imaginary or true, of her supposed 3 encounters with Andrew, including which is now classified as an ORGY, which in Virginia's original tale was her and another girl taking Andrew by the hand and taking him for a massage, after which she allegedly had carnal relations with him. And if I read it all correctly, this was during his visit to the Manhattan apartment of Epstein. So, all of this, including the puppet and the touching of the mammary glands and Virginia being paid $15,000 by Epstein to have these encounters with Andrew had been reported in the media since 2020, if not earlier. So tell me again, what in these depositions are actually new information? Actually, I think I have more new information than the entire British press corps, and I think they are as thick as two planks and only care about the sensationalism and not about any facts whatsoever. And to Kinsey Schofield, please, my dear, go report on the Kardashians or Britney Spears before you go on any public platform again and tell the king to cut all ties with his brother. Why don't you go cut all ties with a member of your family? I don't know why you would do so, but neither do I know why Charles would cut all ties with Andrew. So go think about that, my dear, because Kinsey and everyone else of the ignorant media, even if Andrew had sex with Virginia, he was a single man and she was a high-end pro. Okay? And secondly, she was of legal age of consent in the places where these encounters supposedly took place, when they supposedly took place. So whether the press and Kinsey and a few others like it or not, he did nothing illegal. Zilch. So why would Scotland Yard investigate him? Bring some iota of proof that he was involved in the actual trafficking, and we'll talk again. Until then, you have nothing. And so all the stories about his teddies and him being rude to maids, etc., are also being rehashed. Well, to be an arrogant, spoiled man is not illegal either. There are many of those right there in Hollywood, Kinsey. And talking about Hollywood, so many American, British, and journalists from other countries are slamming Andrew, who was somewhere between 42 and 45 when these supposed encounters with an 18-year-old took place. But the very same journalists, you are not screaming and crying about the age gap between Al Pacino and Noor Al-Fala. 54 years. And Cher and Alexander Edwards, 40 years. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, 25 years. Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart, 22 years. Seriously, people, get a life. If you really want to do something constructive and worthwhile, do some investigative journalism into the real trafficking and the real abuse going on. Almost on a daily basis, there are men and women caught making and distributing the most horrific material involving children way under 18 and 20. Children who are not consenting or getting paid. That is the real pandemic. The real story which should be investigated is that of the 12 and 13-year-olds who were smuggled in. That is what I hate about Brunel, Epstein, and Maxwell. Prove to the world who exactly abused those children, and we can talk again. In the meantime, go sweep in front of your own American, Hollywood, England, London, Paris, South Africa, Pretoria, and Johannesburg filthy doors before you tell anyone to cut ties with a blood relation who may or may not have had relations with another adult. End of story and this particular rant. Okay, now let's get even more serious. And God knows I'm going to tag as many news outlets in this video as I can in the hope they wake the heck up. Because if a little old woman in South Africa can get the facts, then how the heck can't they? So, the Daily Record and a few others are again reporting that Charles will kick Andrew out of Royal Lodge because of the new revelations in the deposition. Well, wakey, wakey, you dumb nuts. Charles can't kick Andrew out unless, number one, he suddenly becomes a dictator instead of a constitutional monarch. Or number two, Andrew breaks the clauses of his lease agreement with the Crown Estate Trust. Andrew has a legally binding lease agreement on a property belonging to the state, not the king, the state, the country. A lease agreement which does not have a clause prescribing how he should manage his sex life or who he may or may not be friends with. If these professional journalists will so little as do the basic homework, they will also be informed that Andrew has by now accrued £7.5 million of structural repairs that he paid for. Thus, not wear and tear repairs, but repairs which under any normal circumstances would be the responsibility of the landlord. So, if Andrew is kicked out for whatever reason, the Crown Estate will have to pay him £7.5 million. Now, if I can get that information, why can't you? And then the third story. Oh, my dears, I have a stomach cramp from pure irritation. Even the Telegraph and the Express, who should know better, are reporting that Prince Andrew is set to be thrown into chaos as King Charles removes his security funding. What bullshit. As the son of the reigning monarch at the time, just like William is now the son of the reigning monarch, Andrew was entitled to security. And I'm going to say it again. Entitled does not mean he has to get it. It was up to the monarch, Princess Anne and Prince Edward, although also the children of the reigning monarch at the time did not get round-the-clock state-funded security, and even now, as full-time working royals, still don't. Only when they are performing royal duties. They are paying for private security at their homes and private events themselves. Okay, so keep that in mind. So in 2020, after Andrew stepped back from his royal duties, the Metropolitan Police reduced his security detail due to his lower workload, like they are doing and would do with Anne, Edward, and any other working royal, except for the king and first in line to the throne, who are the only royals entitled to 24/7 state-funded security, and has been for many, many years, even before the Epstein saga. With Andrew's retirement, the Queen decided to fund a portion of Andrew's private security via her own private funds. Let's call it a perk of his retirement. Charles, however, never was under any obligation to do so, just like he is under no obligation to pay for Anne and Edward's security during the running of their day-to-day errands. And that applies whether Andrew was ever involved with Epstein or not. Because you see, Andrew is not Charles's child or the child of the reigning monarch. Okay, now, if you guys are still here listening, then the next truth is going to hit hard, in your face hard, and has nothing to do with my likes or dislikes or even my opinion, which does not matter anyway. It is based on fact. The king, King Charles III, cannot and will not remove Andrew's titles, and likely cannot and will not remove Harry's titles. And here is why. It is not because he can't. Legally, constitutionally, he can. But morally and ethically, he can't. And if he does, he will have to step down himself. And the story goes like this. Legally, by law, and where things stand right now with Giuffre and Schoberg, Andrew did nothing illegal. Based on what we know right now, he did nothing illegal. What counts against him, and quite rightly so, is the fact that he remained friends with Epstein after Epstein's 2010 conviction. Thus, whatever is taken from Andrew now will 100% be due to his friendship with Epstein, a known and convicted pedophile, procurer, etc. Now, all you legal eagles are nodding your heads in agreement. I know, I can see you. So, if Andrew loses his home, his income, his status, his family, his titles, much of which he has lost already, then, my dears, so should his brother Charles, for his friendship with Savile, Ball, and Van der Post, even if neither Charles nor Andrew had done anything wrong. If you want to convict or deprive Andrew of anything based purely on his friendship with Epstein, then you have to deprive his older brother of the same for his friendships with known pedophiles and abusers. Remember, Charles even provided Ball with a home after he was accused the first time. So, like Andrew, he knew what Ball was accused of, yet remained his loyal friend. The argument is then brought up that Andrew may have received financial incentives while working for the Crown and State, that his children received gifts. Do I need to remind you that so did his older brother? The only difference is that every time it was swept under the carpet, ignored, or loosely explained away. So the point is that I am not saying, and I mean I'm not saying that either Charles or Andrew is guilty of anything. What I am saying is that you cannot apply two completely different measures to two people in the same country under the same law. So the British and Commonwealth realm countries need to take stock. Do you want to be totally rid of Andrew? Retire him to pastures where he is never seen again and becomes Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Well, then you have to force the current king to abdicate and maybe out of courtesy he could retain one of his old ducal titles or revert back to prince. I don't know. All I know is that you can't apply different measures to different people under the same law. So I guess it is up to the subjects of the British monarchy to decide what they want. Okay, so I hope everyone I talked about in this video actually watches the whole video and go think about it. I mean, guys, even if you increase the speed on this video, it is important for all of those who are now flaunting all this BS to actually listen to the facts, because you are making fools of yourself. Because it is one thing to gain popularity for being as salacious and controversial as possible. It is another to say things without making sure of the facts, and in doing so, put devastating results and consequences in motion. Okay, guys, that is it from me. My next video will not be about the Andrew Epstein saga, I promise. So until we meet on that one, please take good care of yourselves. Bye.